So a lot of people on my Instagram account has been asking me how I did this Curvenet rigging and Blender. So I'm creating this video to show a tutorial on how it's done. Alright, so let's get right to it. I'll be using this simple mesh as an example for the rig. Alright, so let's start with creating an armature. The method I used in the Instagram version, the ham, right, is just a different method entirely, but I'm using a simpler method here. Then I'll be using my add-on, the RIGO add-on. Link to this will be available in the description if you want this add-on. Though I'll be showing you how to do this manually as well. Alright, so I created my armature. I want to see it on wire mode. The first thing you want to do is you want to arrange your bones. So select your bone and change the snapping to vertex, right? And then you snap it to this vertex. Scale it down. When you know how to do this simple rigging, you can use it for a much more complex type of rig. Alright, so I'll duplicate this and move it there as well. You can use this method to do your bone snapping, but for this rig, I'll be using my add-on. So I'll go back to object mode and delete this. I'll go to the mesh itself, go to vertex selection, select this vertex, select these 3 vertices, to select this one. I basically want to create armatures on these vertices, bones on these vertices. So I've selected the vertices I want. I go back to object mode and I use the armature tools. I say armature from vertices. So I've created the bones on these vertices and created this armature. Going back to edit mode, I want to see our bones in the B-bone format, right? So let's decrease the size with Ctrl Alt S. Okay. So you want to move the base of this bone to the base, or the tip of this bone to the base of this bone. If you don't understand, you can go back to the diagram. So we're moving the tail to the head of this bone. You are still in vertex snapping, so you can basically just press G and snap it in. Okay, something like that. And you can also select this and you can move it to the base of this. So you want to create like a net, like a curve net, which is what we're trying to do. Okay, but this is like a longer method for me, so I'll be using the add-on to speed up. I'm selecting this bone and this bone, snap it to the head, so we're doing that. So we'll do the same thing for this. You can use Shift R to repeat the action, right? And then for this last one, we're playing this. So if you go back to B-bone mode, that's enabling your front. So you can see the simple setup that we have here. But we are not done yet, because you still have to create the bones across, just like this. So we can select this bone, extrude up in the Z-axis, and you can just select this bone, and snap it again. So we have that. Okay, can do the same thing here. Extrude up and select this one and snap it. Oh, well, that should be this one. Okay, now we have this, and then we can also do the same thing here. This will make sense in a minute. The more you do this, the more you understand what's going on. Okay, all right, so we have this simple setup right here. So you can select all your bones again and just press Shift N. You want to recalculate the roll. Just this doesn't really matter. I just do it for So you just do that, and now we have a much simpler bone alignment. And the next steps here is to select all and clear the parent. Okay, you press Alt P. So you clear the parent of all the bone. Now you want to arrange each bone. You want to create the net-like shape for the bones. You can select one of these. You go to edit mode, you duplicate it, you scale it down, press Ctrl Alt S to increase the size, and then you do it again This time I'm snapping the cursor to the tail. Alright, and then we change the pivot mode to cursor and scale this down. So this bone now has the start and the end. Change the pivot point to infer just again. So you can subdivide this to 10, and then you can also change this to tangents. So our start bone is bone 3001. So this is start bone, and this is the end bone. We have to parent this bone to this bone. Control P, keep offsets. And we have this bone has to stretch to this one here. Alright, so Control Shift C and press stretch to. So we have this simple setup right here. So what you want to do now is you want to match the curvature of this mesh, this right here. We want to match the curvature. So I want to match this curvature. So you are using this start and end bone to achieve that. Okay, you can see how long this process is, which is where I created this add-on to just simplify the whole process. So I want to do everything I've done before. Alright, so now you back to the defaults. To just make it everything simpler, you can select this bone and say set up B bone. So everything I just did then, it just set it up in one click. I use my add-on a lot in videos because I need to make the videos shorter so that people can easily watch it. I can try and match the pose or the curvature of this part of the mesh. You can't see properly, you can disable in front, so you can see it very well. So I kind of match the curvature of this part of the mesh, as you can see it here. Let's enable in front again, select the other bones. You can select everything at once and say set up B bone. So it sets it up for you automatically. Now you can see that the controls are a bit big. Okay. Just select all the deformation bones, because these bones right here are deformation bones. You select them all and you invert the selection, go to edit mode and kind of scale those ones down. Now going back to pose mode, what we want to do now is that we still want to match the curvature of all these bones, just like did for this one, to make this easier for you so that you know what to select. Now this bone is bone 5, right? So bone 5, we have a start and a end. Like I see, if you press Alt here to show you all the bones that you can select here, so you can see bone 5 start. So when you see bone 5 start, you know that you're selecting this bone right here. If I come here and say bone, you can see bone 5 end, right? Now that you're selecting this bone, what we want to select here now is this bone 501, right? So you can also enable names to see the bones history you are working with. So bone 5001, which is this start. So you can do that, and you can start editing and try to match the shape. Rigging is a very long process. You have a lot of repetitions, which I think is why a lot of people run away from rigging. But I find it very interesting. Okay, so if you want to get the perfect rig, you need to be willing to spend some time editing your bones properly. Alright, so as you can see, I'm done with the editing of the bones and they are matching the shape. You can see we have the matching shape. So these are our nets, right? This is the curve nets that we want to achieve. Now if you notice that we go back to edit mode, we lost all those things, and that's because everything we are doing now is in pose mode. Everything we did was in pose mode, so we need to apply and set this as a default pose. So how do we do that? You press A on your keyboard and you press Ctrl A again. Then you press apply pose as a rest pose. Okay, so when you go back to edit mode, it has retained what we did in the pose mode. Let's create the parent bones. So before that, let's go back to the amateur properties and create the bone collection so we can easily select some of these bones. So let's name this the deformation bone. Let's name this the quick bones, okay? And then we have the controller bones, CTRL. We select the green bones, which are deformation bones, and we want to move them to deformation layer. Alright, so I'm selecting it like that. So these bones are the deformation layer bones, so you can assign them to this group, right? So we invert our selection, and these bones are the tweak bones. So let's assign the selection like that. Now you've noticed that if you hide let's hide the deformation layer now. Let's also hide the mesh. Now what we have here, I said that in this area alone we have 3 bones. In this area we also have 3 bones. Select all of them at once just to move them at once is kind of problematic. What we want to do is to, create a parent bone in that area. Let's select this bone and say you are moving the cursor to it, right? Just like this, and you are creating a new bone in that area, scaling it down, and then you parent these 2 bones to it. This subbone is serving as our parent bone for all the other bones, right? As usual, I have this already in my add-on, so I can just delete this and then let's enable the cylinder back. All you need to do is select these 2 bones that are here, or you can just use the lasso selection to do that. And in my add-on, just say make b bone parent. As you can see, in just one click here we parent to these 2 bones. Same thing with this one. Let me hide the mesh again. So here we have 3 bones. So all you have to do is select one to make it active and say make b bone parent. And just like that, we have the b bone parent. So you can do the same thing for the rest. Okay, good. Now we have the b bone parent for all the selected bones. So I'm going to select all the controls. As you can see, they have the suffix or the prefix rather on them. You just press M on your keyboard and move it to control. So now we have the controller bones, the tweak bones, and the deformation bones. So let me scale this up a bit. And okay. If I enable all the layers now, except the tweak bones, you can see that I can use this to easily control. You can also read that right now. So these controller bones are controlling the whole chain, just like that. So this is how you make the curvenet that you see, just like this. Alright, so what we want to do next now is to bind the mesh to the deformation layer, so you can hide everything else. Make all of these bones Shift W deform and make sure that they don't have the deform option enabled. Okay. Alright, so deform option is unchecked. So the only bones that have the deform option checked is the deformation bones. Let's link our cylinder back, select your cylinder, select your rig and press Ctrl P and you choose automatic weights. Okay, just select your mesh, select your bone and press Ctrl Tab and select weight paint. Now you can use the control bone to select the bones and see the weights on it, right? I won't be doing any weight painting here. So what I can do is to smooth the weight out, just to do a very minor weight painting. So you can go to weight and smooth, select deformation pose bones, can increase this to 1 just to smooth out the weights. You understand? So you can leave it like this. You can go back to object mode enable the other layers. So now we can hide the deformation layer, right? Can unhide the tweak and the control layers. So now if I select this bone, you can see what we have. You can rotate, you can rotate anyhow you want to rotate the. So this is also a very perfect way to rig your clothes or your clothing for the character. Now we are not done with this rig because we still have to create the parent bones for this, because let's assume this is an arm, right? So this is the upper arm, this is the lower arm, right? So we want to have that parent bone that I want to create. So you can do that with this. Select these two bones and say color selected. So we can create a bone here. Scale it down. And you can just do this. Extrude. Put top view. Get it here. Okay. As usual, you want to clear the parenting or the once disconnect the bone. Alright, now we want to parent these controller bones, this one, this one, this one, so this one. Okay, Control P, keep offset. So same thing we want to do for this one, this one, this one, and this one. Control P, keep offset. Now we can easily rotate this. So this, can you see what we have now? We have a proper rig. So that's why you create the Curvenet rig. So this is a full rig now that we have. So I did the same thing for this rig right here. So this is like a finished work, right? For the same process I used the same thing for this rig. So if I hide the body, I use the same system to create this clothing rig. So this is the net itself. Here's the net, as you can see. Hide this. Okay. So here's the net. This is just some visualization. So you want to see how the net is affecting the mesh, or how the rig is affecting the mesh. You can hide it. It doesn't really matter. This is the rig. This is the rig that we have. So, and it still works with the main rig of the body. You understand? This is the main rig of the body. It still works with it. Okay. It still works with the main rig, and I will unhide this again. So we have this rigging systems, can see. So if I select these three bones and move them at the same time, it even creates automatic as you can see, this automatic crease in the rig. So if I rotate this like this, you can see this automatic crease that does on the clothing, and you still have your individual controls for the clothing itself, as you can see. So it's a very powerful system to rig clothes in Blender, as you can see. Let me show you what's working underneath. No shapes. Okay. So this is the simple rig that I just saw. This is this is how I set it up. You can see we have our tweak bones, our start and our end. We have the controller bones, which are red in color. So it's the same process. All right, let me hide up it's the same process. So let me show this one by one. So this is deformation bones. These are the ones to create, right? So these deformation bones, you know, they are the ones that you try and match with the clothing itself. Okay. So these deformation bones, and then on top of that, one by one I select them, and then I did set up a bone, okay, to create these tweak bones that you are seeing here. You understand? And then the next thing we want to create is the controller bones. So what I did again, I select each tweak bone, and then I said make the bone parent. So it's created these red bones that you are seeing. These are the main parents of the so when I select this point, everything is moving together. You understand? So the last thing I made, which is for the body itself. So this is the rig for the body. So this is the rig for the body. We have the jacket. So this is the body rig. Okay. So what I just did now is just to parent the controllers. These controllers to a certain bone of the body, so that when I move the body, you know, everything is moving together. Disgusting. So you can use this method to even rig the body itself instead of the clothing. So yeah, that brings us to the end of this tutorial. I hope you have fun and you get the rig. If you have any questions, you can put them in the comment section and I'll get to it. And yeah, bye.